Welcome to the Quiet Warrior Show, where we help top leaders find their pathway to incredible success and a lifetime of happiness. Here is your host, Tom Dutta, the Quiet Warrior.
Hey everybody, Tom Dutta like Butta. Welcome to the Quiet Warrior Show. Hey, we're back again and we are live streaming. What does that mean? It's the next generation of broadcasting. Did you know that we're on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and X, formerly known as Twitter? And what does that mean? It means that if you're on and you're watching us, you can chat with us, post a comment or a question in the chat box. I'll try to feature it on my screen in the studio here. Now, I want to say thank you. If it wasn't for you, the show wouldn't be growing. We are booking now into December. I'm in the studio once a week. It's incredible, the interest. So thank you for being a guest and a viewer to all of you on the Quiet Warrior Show. We got a lot planned for you today. I'm very excited. But first of all, it's a difficult world out there, isn't it? And wouldn't it be great in a world where there's so much strife that we could create comfort and safety for children, that we could bring children and parents together like that, maybe to do something creative. If you like that story, just watch this short video. Oh, did you like that? Shameless plug. This is my third book. It dropped in May, and I'm really excited about it. This came out of my doctoral degree research. It's called The Talanoa Way, with Pet Pals Coloring Stories, a journey filled with furry, feathered, and filmed finned friends. It's got 40 pages that are for coloring, and each one is themed with a bit of a narrative. Talanoa is a Pacific Islander term. My background is a bit of Fijian, and you'll hear about more of why that's important today. And so you can sit down with children, tell stories, pass down those cultural and ancestral stories, positives, and have the children color. You can get it at Amazon, and if you want one signed personally and wrapped up by me, maybe with a little sticker, you can get a hold of me through my website. So more on that later. So I'm pretty excited about that. But why we're really here is to talk about our guest. And I decided I'm going to do something a little different with the introduction. I have something I want to share with you. I want to reveal something today that's very personal, and I'm so excited about. So here goes. We're diving into part of my own history, a story that connects me to my ancestors and to the rich history of a place called the Fiji Islands, where my mom and dad were born, in a place called Suva. For those who don't know, I was born in the United Kingdom. I was actually born on a military base. My father was in the British Army. Before I came to Canada, my roots go all the way back to India. And recently I had the honor of confirming something truly profound. My paternal great-grandparents were brought to Fiji as indentured laborers in a program that I did not know this story. It was known as the Girmitiyas, and I didn't do this alone. This discovery, which happened just weeks ago, is because of my guest. His name is Mr. Ashwini Kumar Rajpal, and he helped me trace these roots. And so if you're thinking about, I wonder if I can do some of that, he'll talk to us about it. We connected the dots that span continents and centuries. Just think about that, everybody. I want to talk a little bit about the history behind that, what I discovered about Fiji and why it's so significant. And this is not just for me, with my roots tied to this incredible island nation, but it's for everybody. A little bit of history. Fiji, as we know it today, is a beautiful group of islands in the South Pacific. Its history is complex and layered, though. In fact, in the late 1800s, after the British Empire abolished slavery, they still needed laborers, especially in their colonies, to work on the plantations. And that's where the indentured labor system we're going to talk about came in. Now, between 1879 and 1916, thousands of Indians, and I'm talking about 60,500 or so, they were recruited under this system and sent halfway across the world to places like Fiji to work in the sugarcane plantations. The system known as Girmit comes from the word agreement. But let me tell you, these weren't agreements as we think of them today. These were harsh, often inhuman contracts. My ancestors, your ancestors, if you're connected to this, or you're going to find that out, they were brought to Fiji in ships, and their journey wasn't easy. In fact, I read some books where some were lost on the ships. Almost 500 went missing. Many of them were deceived. They were promised a better life, but they faced brutal working conditions, long hours, and isolation. It was a system designed to exploit labor, pure and simple. I hesitate to use the word slavery, but it's out there. But here's the remarkable thing, everyone. Out of that hardship, they built a new life. They built communities. And today, Fijians of Indian descent, like myself, are the descendants of those Girmitiyas. We're part of a larger story of resilience, survival, and transformation. And this is the story that I want to get out there. So, to bring him on, my special guest, who's the man who helped me change my life by discovering that connection and finding the roots beneath my feet, which has changed my life, I want to tell you a bit about him. His name is Ashwini Kumar Rajpal. You'll see his contact information on the screen, and we want this to be an educational video, so you'll be able to connect with him and have a conversation. He's someone who knows his history inside and out. He's an expert in uncovering the stories of Girmitiyas and helping people like me find our ancestral roots. And he's very humble because he doesn't call himself an expert. We dive into the conversation. Let me tell you that he's from Guyana, which was then known as British Guyana. He's the son of Pandit Harpal Rajpal and Rajmati Rajpal, and he immigrated to Canada in 1972 to further his studies. He's lived across the great country from Toronto to Winnipeg to London, Ontario, and now home here in Vancouver. He's a proud father of 2 daughters and a son, and after a remarkable 43-year career, 38 of those were with a multinational company, he did retire. But he knows the secret: you don't retire. His work didn't stop. He is a student, as he says, of Vedas and Vedic literature, and he's the founding director of the International Foundation of Vedic Science, a nonprofit organization that's dedicated to researching, publishing, and distributing literature on Vedic sciences. Now, one of the incredible things that Ashwini does is he helps people, as I said, like me, of Indian origin, trace their roots back to India. And that's how we cross paths. And his work goes beyond that, tracing family trees. He organizes things like heritage tours. Imagine that, back to India, gives presentations on the Vedic calendar. He proofreads and edits publications like the World Vedic Calendar and Almanac. He is a true scholar, a humble scholar, and a passionate advocate for connecting people to their past. So, without further delay, he's impatiently waiting in the green room, I know. To the show, Ashwini. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Tom, for such a great introduction.
I was going to say, isn't it humbling to have somebody introduce you and you have to sit there and just listen to it and put a smile on your face? But you truly are a humbled person. And I want to do a shout out. I see that we have people watching live. So for all of those, please put a comment in the chat. I'll see it in the studio. Put a question. But hey, Ashwini, I want to take you into, first of all, the story. We're about storytelling. So we're going to get to how you helped me get to that discovery of my paternal great-grandfather. But first, I want to explain that we're going to do some storytelling in what we call Plato's Garden. So are you ready to go into Plato's Garden with me?
Let's do it.
All right. That was the right answer. So let me put up a quick video, everybody. This is just a bumper music. We're going to edit this together. A quick video, and then I'll set this up. What is Plato's Garden? And we'll have some great conversations. So here we go. 3, 2, 1. All right. Sounds kind of magical to me, Ashwini. Welcome to Plato's Garden.
Thank
Everybody,
you.
what is great to have you here, Ashwini. What is Plato's Garden? Let me set this up for you, Ashwini, so you can talk to me in Plato's Garden. For those who are watching, it's on the screen. For those who are listening on the podcast, just the audio. So Plato's Garden was an Athenian philosopher. Plato was, Ashwini, you know this, during the classical period in ancient Greece. He founded the Platonist school of thought in the academy. It's actually from the Greek word academia. It's kind of cool. It was the first institution of higher learning in the Western world. You can see a little picture. And apparently, Ashwini, Plato and Aristotle had different styles of thinking. We just walk and talk and lots of wisdom. What we're going to do is think about three areas of your life. And I call this the influences of context of your work or your public agency. So the first one's macro. So at the time, for example, Ashwini started doing the work he's doing to help others, everyone, what was going on in the world around him, the global world? Call that macro. And then mezzo, what was happening in the sector where he was working, maybe with his career and then that transition to the work he's doing in retirement, anything connected to that. Ashwini, my favorite is micro, because micro is about you. So what was happening in your personal life that may have influenced this evolution of all this work you're doing? So I'm going to take that off the screen. And so as we go in and talk to each other, you're just going to be connecting dots. There'll be things we'll be saying. You won't even know it. That'll go across those areas. The whole idea I learned in my doctoral degree, which I'm halfway into, is this allows us to do what's called critical thinking. So learning about all these areas connects the dots, and we hopefully find some deeper meaning. So let's get into it. Why don't I just ask you to take us back, tell us a bit about who you are, go back to your roots, your early years, even childhood if you want, and as you were growing up. We'd like to know more.
Well, I was fortunate growing up in Guyana. We had our great grandmother living with us, and she was a Girmitiya, but she came from India when she was a very young girl, and she came with her mother, and she we tried to get information from her uh, about where she was from and things like that, but for some reason she was kind of reluctant to talk about her past,
Yeah.
or she may have I have a feeling she may have forgotten some of it because she was so young when she arrived in Guyana. So in 2005 I made my first trip to India, and when I went there, I was fortunate. I had the opportunity to tour India countrywide with one of the Vedic scholars, and people kept asking me, you are Indian. Where did you originate from? But
Yeah.
uh, I was embarrassed, to say that I'm sorry, I don't have a clue, So
Yeah.
on my return, I started delving into that history, and I got the documents, and we did searches in India, and
Yeah.
then eventually I went and visited those villages, not only of this great grandmother, but the great grandfather, and one more great grandfather. There were three that I did at the same time. So
Wow.
uh,
That's incredible. I'm as you're talking, it's about storytelling back and forth. I'm thinking about, my father at age 12. My dad unfortunately left home. Just the circumstances I had. I didn't know my grandfather. He passed away in Fiji, but I heard about my paternal great grandfather once from my father, and I can imagine the emotion. Just tell us when you went and actually went to the villages, or when you went to that experience, how that made you feel, how that changed you in terms of your identity.
Well, it it made me appreciate who I was more, because I can see the differences um, in myself that and of those relatives I found, um, and I could see the environment they're in, um, and those things made me think, you know we have we as a community, as a Girmitya community, we have to do something to help those people that were
Yeah,
left behind, um, in
absolutely.
whatever way we can, whether it's giving moral support, whether it's something tangible, or whatever, because those families, most of them are still living under the same conditions when our forefathers left.
Wow, that's remarkable. Everybody, we're here with Ashwini Rajpal, and he helped me discover my roots to learn about my paternal great grandfather. This is interesting because I don't know what you're thinking about of this, but I found that all my life I've been yearning something, and they say that if you know the ground beneath your feet, if you connect to your roots, you become whole, you become human, you become happier and fulfilled. And as soon as you help me make that connection and understand, and we have more work to do, I'm gonna actually engage and hire you to find my roots to the villages and find all those specific connections. It has truly, Ashwini, and I think this is why I want to tribute you with this show, being life changing. And I wanted to share this with you before I ask you to take it back. That I learned about this whole Gurmitiya. I call it the Girmitiyas story by walking into a room months ago with a fella by the name of Rizwan Abbas. And Rizwan came on the show, and we did a whole show about the actual story of the Girmitiyas and the ships and the background of that. So I'm going to ask you to tell me a bit about what you know, fill in the blanks for the audience. But I remember I met you there, and you stood up and you were saying that we have this website and we can do searches, etc. But the other side of it, there were children, or not children, but youth from the. This is in Canada, everybody. I know we're international watching the show, but I'm on the West Coast, Metro Vancouver. But Ashwini, there were people in that room that day that were in their 30s, late 20s, young, youthful Canadians who are from Fiji who didn't know their connection to this story. Some of them learned it in the room that day. There were tears. There was curiosity. Sometimes there was frustration and anger because there was parts of the story that weren't easy. And when I learned about this, I'll finish on this and then I'll give it back to you to sort of take a few minutes to tell us about the actual Girmitiyas, the history. When I learned about this story and how some of the people were treated who came from India to Fiji and how it changed the fabric of Fiji, I started to understand what I refer to as generational trauma. And that came with my paternal great grandfather into my grandfather's life. And my grandfather died at an early age in Fiji. He was an alcoholic. He had a tough life. And my father then, who was a good man, struggled with things in his life. And there's a connection about this thread of generational trauma. However, the tribute is on the other side of it, much of the strength that came from many of these people who came to Fiji was passed on as a strong foundation, and it's something that we can be proud of. So I've said a lot to you. Just help educate the people today about just bits of that. The Girmitiya. What is a Girmitiya? Tell us about the story itself, how it started, and then this thing about indentured passes, the ships, and then we'll get into the search stuff.
Yeah. Well, the Girmit story, or the indenture story of Indians, started in 1828, when the first set of Indians went to a colony called Reunion. Now it used to be known as Bourbon. It is a French colony. It's just off the coast of Africa.
Yeah.
And from then, it expanded to Mauritius, to Guyana, and those places. Now, the reason that this program started was that as most people are aware of slavery, the slave trade ended in 1807.
Right.
And then because of uh, the potential shortage of new recruits of slaves from Africa, the planters decided to start looking at alternatives, and this is how the Girmitiyas were brought from India to the different colonies. Now, one of the things that people don't know is that in those days, India was governed by a company by the name of the British East India Company. And because it was not a government but a company, it helped to make the system easier for the planters. To give you an example, in the case of Guyana, it took a letter from one of the planters, his name was John Gladstone, to get the system started in Guyana. By the way, John Gladstone was the father of the prime minister, later prime minister of Britain, William Gladstone. He sent a letter to a company in Calcutta that, he heard of this system being done in Mauritius, and he was wondering if they can start it in Guyana. And that's how simple it is. But, from day one, the planters were abusing the system very much. So, because they wanted to treat these Girmitiyas just like the way they were treating the slaves. So because of this, even as back in 1838, the first arrivals to Guyana was on May 5th, 1838. Because of all the abuses in the system was suspended in July of that same year of 1838. And it was not, that suspension was not lifted until 1845, and that's when Girmitiyas were allowed to go again to places like not only Guyana, but they were introduced to Jamaica, Trinidad, and those places.
Yeah, let me just jump in there for a minute. Just keep your thought and carry on in a moment. I want to just add, Ashwini, just add a camera to, this is my action cam. Hey, everybody, you can see me there. This is a book, actually. Ashwini's got a couple books he's going to mention, too. This one I just found and read. It's called Tears in Paradise, and it's by Rajendra Prasad Ashwini, Suffering and Struggles of Indians in Fiji, 1879 to 2004. What stopped my heart is when I first pulled that book out, and I know you've seen this book. Look at, you can't see it, everybody, but that's a list of all the ships and the dates. And so I actually looked at my paternal great-grandfather and identified, and it was heart-stopping. It's just incredible. There's another book by Tadaram Sanadaya. I can't remember if I said that right. This is a gentleman, Ashwini, who actually was on the ground in the system, the slavery system, and experienced the coolie huts and all this torture and things. It's a very short read. It was hard to find. I found it online and printed it. But I recommend everybody that if you contact Ashwini or as you start to do your research, some of these books are invaluable. So Ashwini, just take us back into where you left off in the story. So we're now talking about people going on these ships to countries like Fiji. What happened? What were they promised, and what happened to them there in a highway?
Well, they were they were promised good wages, good housing, um, uh, paid transportation towards the colony, um, and with the promise that they would earn lots of money. You know,
Yep.
um, few of them did earn lots of money, but most of them um, weren't able to survive because what the planters did, they used every opportunity to not pay the Girmitiyas their full wages because and it was like they were in a it was a system that was a debt bondage, it by which these Girmitiyas were in there. They had to. One of the problems is that if they decided to go back to India, if they decide to repatriate
Yep.
after their 5-year contract, they had to pay their own way back to India. So, and a way of getting around that, they have to re-indenture for another 5 years, and then
My goodness.
their return passage will be paid. But even then, that was not enough for the Girmitiyas. Some of them had to re-indenture for a third, fourth, fifth time,
Yeah.
and it was a perpetual system of bondage. So.
Thank you for sharing that, everybody, with Ashwini Rajpal here. And again, the stock ticker on the screen, you'll see his contact information. I encourage you to reach out and even have a conversation. And we're going to get into now the really key part of the show today, Ashwini, which is what you do, which is basically helping people like me who have a curiosity. Am I connected in some way to this story? And I think now would be a great time for me to reveal something to the audience just visually that I'm holding in my hand here, and we'll put a better image on the screen. I'm holding a piece of paper here that was life-changing, and this is the immigration pass for my paternal great-grandfather. So I'm going to just add this to the screen, Ashwini. What I want you to do is, and then we'll go back from it backwards about how we got to this point. Just tell everybody what we're looking at on the screen here and be as detailed as you can, starting with what it is.
Well, as the document says, it's an immigration pass, or you can also call it a boarding pass, or you can even or in today's terms, you can refer to it as a form of a passport. It gives you the name of the immigrant. It gives his father's name, his age. It tells us his caste. It tells us his next of kin in India.
Yeah.
If he was married and accompanied by his or her spouse, that would be listed on there. The spouse name would be listed there, and the spouse number would be there. The depot number would be there, and very importantly, the district they're from.
Yeah.
The Tana is the police station that was in charge of providing policing services to their village, and of course the village name. It also gives some other information like bodily marks. If you have scars and things like that, they would
amazing.
put that. Yeah.
Thank you.
So it's
Everybody.
an important piece of document.
Absolutely. Now,
Yeah.
I'm just going to jump in, if you don't mind, and just say that I'm looking at the document in the studio here. Let me just put this somehow if I can juxtapose it. So, yeah, I mean, it might be hard to see for the audience, but I do want to spend a moment on this. So it says man's pass. There's one for women, but I understand that the the one for women also was it for younger people too? I think.
No, there are different categories.
I see.
There's for boys, there are for girls, and they're also for
Okay.
infants.
Okay. So on this one here, what was really cool, everyone, is at the top. There's a number of 146 is actually the ship number that my paternal great grandfather, and his name was Bhagwan Ram, and his father was Rama Ram, and so he came over on ship 146. So I actually went in the book and found the name of that ship, and it's the EMS. The boarding date on this one, Ashwini, it's tiny, but September 1904. And it's interesting. Talk about this. Apparently, once I may have this wrong, but it says on here, by the way, he was 17. Imagine this, everybody, that you're 17 years old, and I don't have the facts on this, but I can imagine, Ashwini, it would be like, excuse me. Hey, we have this great they'd come to the parents of this 17-year-old, say, hey, we have this great opportunity to go to this faraway land, Fiji. And by the way, we're going to pay you better wages. It's going to be wonderful. 5 years, you can come back, better opportunity for your own family. And then they were taken. I even read somewhere that when this thing kind of got out of what it really was, some of the parents were trying to suggest to hide their kids, to suggest maybe they weren't that healthy and they weren't the right ones, but don't know if that's true or not. But the last thing I just wanted to say on this is that, can you imagine everyone being taken away at age 17 and sent away from your family to another land and going into those circumstances? But talk about this for a minute. Apparently, there was you had to have a medical, and then once you had your medical, they put you in a holding area somewhere. Your boarding on the ship could be 2-3 days. Talk about that.
Well, one important point I want to make before that is when they were recruited in the district where they're from, they were not allowed to say goodbye to their families.
Oh my!
They were taken right away to a sub depot in that district. From the sub depot, they had to go to before they were taken to a district magistrate, and the district magistrate will ask whether they understand the terms of their contract and things like that. And of course, they were influenced by the recruiters, so
for sure
they will say yes. From the district, they were taken by train to Calcutta. In most cases, those people that came from South India were taken to the port of Madras, which is today Chennai.
Yeah.
Okay. And then they will be held in a depot there until the ship is ready to sail. Prior to the ship sailing, they would then be subject to a medical examination.
Yes.
And after they've passed the medical examination, that's when this immigration pass would be issued for them to travel.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm just going to reverse the slide, and we'll talk about this one just for a moment. But everybody, what incredible things. You start thinking about this, and one of the things you said, Ashwini, that caught my attention was how, you could do your term of your contract, and then it was like, okay, but you got to pay your way back. But in my own research and learning from you and others, some of these people didn't pay them properly, and some of them weren't accessing food. So you were working 5-6 days or so. You had food for 3-4 days, inhumane conditions. There was rape and torture and whatnot going on. And some of these people never had enough money to go back. So, by default, they're staying in this kind of horrible lifestyle. What are we looking at on screen here? This is part of the document that you got me. The immigration pass has this at the front of it. What's this?
Yeah. This is basically the cover page that came from the National Library of Australia. When you download that pass, it automatically gets sent with the immigration pass to you.
Okay, so what I'm
So,
going to do is I'm going to just we'll edit and tidy all this extra talk I do here. It's more instructional, everyone. So we're going to take that off the screen, and I'm going to share something else in a minute. So we've learned about Ashwini's backstory, who he is, what maybe drives him, his own roots, and he discovered in India, and then revealed my paternal great grandfather's immigration past. So now I have that connection, and we're exploring that. This all happened through a process and research. So what I'd like you to do is tell us about that, be a bit detailed. And of course, people can connect with you to have you talk them through. But you and I started with a conversation. I remember over coffee, right? Remember that? I said, what do? I brought my notebook. You made it so easy for me. So talk about that. And then there's a couple of websites I want to put up. You can just tell me when is the right time. So go ahead.
well, let's. Could you show the Girmit.org website
Sure.
first?
So what we're doing here is I'm adding to the stage here, everyone, a website. So you can tell us about that.
Yeah. So on this website, if you look at the top there it says at the top right hand side it says list of Girmitiyas.
Mm.
Now, if you know the name of the Girmitiya that went to Fiji, you can. This list has most of the Girmitiyas whose names begin with A to M, and it gives you um, their father's name. It gives you their immigrant number. It gives their the ship name, and the year the ship arrived in Fiji.
Yeah.
Um, and then I don't know if you can scroll up
Yeah.
if you
Just let me do that. So I've got a different screen happening here. So tell me when there.
um yeah, no, that doesn't show. But when you go live on this, oh, there it is. Yeah. So
Just
if you
yeah.
know, you have three search functions there. Um, if you know the arrival date, you can click on the button on the left hand side there.
Yeah.
If you
That's
know
where
the
it says search. I just want to be instructional. The three boxes we're looking at, and the one on the left above the two people, it says search arrival date. That's where we are, right?
yes,
Okay.
the middle one says by ship name,
Yeah.
search ship, and then the one on the far right by the pass number. And the pass number is the immigrant number that's assigned in Fiji, was assigned in Fiji when the ship arrived there.
Yeah.
So if you know any one of those three types of information, you can do a quick search here.
Which
But
I didn't. So there was
yeah,
a deeper
well,
way, right?
yeah, with most people like yourself, they don't have any of that information. Okay,
Yeah. That's right.
so now we can go to the
The other side.
slide,
Okay.
the
So let me just pull that
family
up.
search. Yeah.
Yeah. So what we're doing for the podcasts who only have audio, we're putting a picture of the website. So here we are. This one is the URL is I'll put it in the screen. It's familysearch.org. So go ahead.
Yeah. So the first thing you do when you go to this website, you create an account so that you can get into this site even from home. And there are two search features. If you look on the left hand side there on the top, it gives you a search feature, and
Yeah.
the first place you would look is on under records. Okay, and when it click on records, you can
I'm
you
just
can put.
I'm just toggling it now. There you go.
Okay, so you can put in the person you're looking for, their name, and place would be, of course, Fiji. And if you're looking for a death registration or a birth registration record, if you know the the year, you can put in the year there, and it will
Right.
narrow the search.
Yeah.
So,
So I'm just
so
going to
what
go.
we did, what we
Sorry.
did
Yep. Go ahead.
in your case, we first of all search for your dad's information, and then we got his father's name. Then after after that, we got the father, your grandfather's. We found the death record, and that
That's right.
now for our audience, this is very important. These records that you are accessing on this site, they are the original registration records.
Yeah.
Um, you will get them, and I'll give you some more details on that. So once you find say the death record or a birth record or a marriage record, and you want it will give you the secondary information. It will not give you the primary information. For you to get the primary information, you have to go to one of the branches of the Family Search Library. They have branches all over the world. In the Vancouver area, we have two branches, one in Burnaby, one in Surrey. So you go there, and then you can get the original source document, the primary record of the birth of either the birth registration or the death registration and the marriage registration. Now, what I try to do, I try to get the death registration record because that has more data,
Yeah.
and it has not only the person's name that passed away. It has his father's name. It has his mother's name. It tells you if they were born in Fiji or not. If they were not, how long they were in Fiji. It tells you that it gives you a list of the children, names of the children and their ages. It also gives you the name of the spouse. So you know if you have the right person.
Yeah, I just want to jump in there. Thank you so much. While we're learning a lot here today, teaching moments on the show, everyone, come back and rewind this segment to start and learn this process. It wasn't, it's funny, Ashwini, it's kind of exciting and was fun because research it's like being a detective. It's not a straight line, right? So when
Right.
we started working and I went to the library with you and your wonderful wife, by the way, I'm going to give a shout out to Shoba. She's your wife who actually knew my dad a bit. So the more I connected, I enjoyed the conversation. But we, I didn't have much information because my dad died, but I didn't see him since I was a kid. And my mom's got dementia. She's still alive. So we just, in the search, we put in just a name and you start searching on a last name and then this comes up. And I remember, Ashwini, that sometimes things come up and you're getting all this adrenaline and maybe this dopamine's flooding my brain, feeling excited. We're almost there, and then you find a record and it's like, oh, that's not quite it. Then you do another search and you take a different direction, and just through a little bit of iteration, it's incredible. The other thing I want to add is that on my mom's side, I called my cousin in New Zealand. And by the way, everybody, this work inspired me to do things I've never done all my life. I called my cousin Ashwini, and my mom's last name is Ampuch. And he spent an hour on Zoom with me, and he started talking about my mom and my mom's parents who passed away when she was 12 years. When she was 12, she lost both her parents. And he knew about this Gurmitiya story, but he gave me just a few data points. And then I gave that to you and Shoba, and when we went to the search, that went in, and now I've got documents and records related to my mom's side of the family. I did find this is a funny one. I found you helped me find my parents' marriage certificate. And all my life I've been bragging and saying, my mom and dad were born in Suva, Fiji, and they married there. The truth is they married in England. So I was going like, you idiot. Now you got the facts. So this is also enlightening for people like myself. Let me give it back to you. And For the next couple minutes, we have a few minutes. I want to finish on the process. So, if somebody wanted to do this kind of work, what would they do? The first thing is I'd encourage is reaching out to you. But what would be the first step once you connected with them?
Well, I try and find out what information they have.
Yeah.
Some people have zero information. Okay, so and to give you an example, on Sunday night, I was talking to a gentleman, and he was telling me he doesn't even know his great grandfather's name.
Mm.
So you know, and but he knew his grandfather's name. So we did a quick search, and we found the death record for the grandfather.
Wow.
And as I said before, the death registration record has the great grandfather's name on it. So now he knows the name of his great grandfather. Cool. Yeah.
So everybody, what you heard Ashwini say, and I'm doing this. This is an educational video where we want you to be able to go back and watch it, but make notes and then start your process. So I recommend first is to reach out, the phone number, emails on the screen, to Ashwini for a conversation. And I know, Ashwini, you do a phone call in a heartbeat, meet for coffee if somebody's serious to look into this. The second thing is that Ashwini will get the research going once you've got some info. I want to just put this on the screen, Ashwini, and show you how this evolved for me. That's actually a file folder. All the stuff in that folder, everybody, you're looking at, it's actually research that came in just through the weeks we've done. And in there somewhere is my dad's death certificate, his dad's death certificate, my parents' marriage certificate, my paternal great-grandfather's immigration pass. We're still not done yet. So this is real stuff. Ashwini, I want to give you a chance to talk about something else we're going to do. I asked you, once we done this, it goes deeper. I know my paternal great-grandfather's name now, but I have a friend, by the way, who did a search like this a long time ago, and he said it was life-changing because he went to the village and actually visited the village, met some people who lived in the house that used to be his dad's house, but he got to know right down to that house and some of the people in the generations that had passed that were connected to him. So you have a program that you do. Tell us about that. It's a fee-based one, which we expect. Just tell us about what that was.
Well, as I said before, I did a search. I did 3 searches at the beginning regarding my roots, and and when people heard that I did these searches and how I was successful, and they contacted me to help them with their searches, and this goes back to 2005, and we have been helping people. We took, at that time, we weren't involved in this sort of genealogy work with the International Foundation for Vedic Science. So it got so busy that we decided to take it on as a project. And I'm happy to say we still are involved in doing that. So what happens is we not only try and help them with the documents, to get the documents, we use those documents to help with the search in India. We have ground workers in India who will travel to and find those villages and then conduct interviews and do searches for land records and things like that to help find those families. And I must admit that in some cases, the searches are not successful because of different factors. But in about over 80% of the cases, we are successful in
Well,
in locating those families.
well, that's exciting. Everybody, 80%. I went from 0% and, getting to even 80%. I challenge everybody, call to action, that it's worth it, because the more you know about somebody else's story, the more you learn about yourself. And what a way to fulfill your life, to find out, to be able to hold up, by the way, an immigration path like I have, discovering somebody in my family, my paternal great grandfather. It's pretty amazing. I'm going to do something here I didn't plan to do, but let me just set this up here with, I'm going to put on a little special effects, see if, just bear with me here. Okay. I'm just going to have some fun with you. I might edit this out and say, so when Ashwini asked me, Tom, would you like to take the next step and engage him to do that research back to India to see if I can find my 80% answers? I didn't do this. There wasn't crickets. There was open arms saying, yeah, so I'm going to commit to you. I think I said this private, so I'm committing to do that with you. What my doctoral degree's finishing soon, and I'm going to engage you. My dream, Ashwini, is to actually go to India, where I've never been, and I do film and radio work, as you know, is to produce a little documentary, and also to pass that down to my children, in terms of here's what we are. So thank you very much for that. Ashwini, I'm going to put up on the screen one more thing, and then we'll move to wrap up with a couple acknowledgments for you. So this one, you told me there's a couple books. I'm going to put them up. Just tell us what we're looking at.
Yeah, these are books that were published regarding the recruitment process for Girmitiyas in India. They were published for the Guyanese audience, but they're applicable to all the Girmit colonies. As you can see, it says labor recruitment for the sugar colonies.
Yeah.
The one from Kanpur to Calcutta was a report done by Major Pitcher in 1882. And he was a judge in the Indian Civil Service.
Yeah.
And he was commissioned to investigate and about the recruitment process in India. And he did it in what was then known as the Northwest Provinces and Oud. Today, it's you may know it as Uttar Pradesh. One of the things I found out about reading when I was reading this book is that these recruiters were also kidnapping people, because there was a Reverend Thomas in what is known today as Prayagraj. He found 10 women who were held as captives. So,
oh my goodness,
yeah,
that is so tragic. I'm going to put another book on the screen. The one I showed before everyone. Just put my other camera up. Tears in Paradise: Suffering and Struggles of Indians in Fiji, Rajendra Prasad. One of the things I'm learning from you is that reading. They say leaders are readers. And so reading creates this critical thinking, right? So everybody, I encourage you, these books, the two that we had up there, I'll just throw it up again, that Ashwini referred, are available on Amazon. And so you can order them there. And of course, the other one I found the same place. Ashwini, it's been just absolutely incredible going through the journey with you. Any last things you want to share about this, what we talked about today, and then I want to acknowledge something with you.
Well, in most cases, the people or the relatives in India, when they are found, they're very happy
Yeah.
and delighted, and that they have, they have found that these relatives have searched and located them, and they want to establish a family relationship. You know, there's the odd one or two that are skeptical,
Mm.
but once contact is made, that skepticism is removed, and
Yeah.
and things move along slightly.
Yeah.
Not slightly, but greatly.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Uh, Another thing came to mind, but we tell stories, and you say something, I think of something. My wife is born in just outside of Rome in Italy. We've been married. It'll be coming up to 29 years, Ashwini, and many of my audience followers who know my story know that Anna came to Canada as a young girl. And what was interesting is we just traveled. We took a trip to see my daughter who lives in New Brunswick, Canada. So for those who are internationally, New Brunswick is the other side of our country. I'm in Metro Vancouver or British Columbia. And Ashwini, my daughter just graduated university and now she's getting married. But there's a place in Nova Scotia. We drove a car into Nova Scotia, the other province, called Pier 21. And Pier 21 is actually a pier off the Atlantic Ocean where ships would arrive bringing people to this country. And so my daughter arranged a tour of it. We went, and they've turned the pier into a huge warehouse that is basically a tour. You go through each part of the warehouse, and it feels as if you've arrived off the ship. So they show you the area where you come off the ship. They show images of the baggage, what it looked like in the 1900s, and then how there's a little store with foods that from back then, and then they showed the trains that they put people on and sent them across the country. These were people coming off the ships from Italy, in this case, my wife's family, who had left home, didn't even know what they were coming to. And one of the images I looked at, they were on the train, and as they showed, we actually got to sit in a train car in the warehouse. Like we were living it, and out the window you saw snow. And my wife got all emotional, and she said, "That's what it was like. I remember now when she was just a little girl, and her dad and her four siblings." She said we were on this train, and it was like, I remember it was all white snow. And so she just got her immigration pass for the family. And so I framed it for her in a big frame. It's on her office wall. She shared it with her family. It's the first time any of them, found out some of those things. So I'm bringing that up as a celebration of what you're doing, because it truly is a celebration when we're learning some of these things. And then maybe, Ashwini, my dream is, like I talked to Mr. Abbas, there's an Emancipation Day when all this slavery ended, but to have a way where we can celebrate, particularly British Columbia, Indo-Fijians, we can celebrate the sacrifices that those ancestors made, instead of maybe just talking about part of our history we lost. So I want to thank you for that. And so now I'm going to acknowledge and award you. I bet you didn't know you're getting an award today, did you?
No.
Of course you didn't, and you're very humble, man. And so the first thing I do, and I write these down on my paper, I put a camera up on studio. As I'm interviewing everyone, I don't prescript this. I write down 4 words. Ashwini, these are leadership words. My background is an industry CEO, my career, and then now I'm an educator. The first word is maven, a great book by Malcolm Gladwell called Outliers. And in that, he talks about a type of person is a maven. And a maven is somebody who just has this incredible knowledge of something. So, Ashwini, if people want to research roots, this type of thing, your picture would be in the dictionary under the word. Number 2 is leader. You're a natural leader, my friend, and it comes out of you. You're very humble, but leaders are like those who create followers. I, just having met you and done this work, I'm now following you, and by doing the kind of work I'm doing, it's getting this out across the world. And so you've created another leader in me for your cause. 3 is love. I don't know if you know this, but it comes out of you just the way you are. And so I think that's an awesome trait. And the last one is servant. You go beyond yourself to help others. And I believe that you'll be rewarded then some. So now what we're going to do is we're going to show you the award. I'm going to hold this up to the camera. Have you ever heard of a challenge coin?
No.
Okay. So the word, it comes with this, and we're going to get together because you live locally for a photograph, because I want a picture with you and give this to you. But everyone, these I had made when I started the show in 2017. So the challenge coins, Ashwini, surfaced during World War I era, and the practice of carrying a coin designed specifically for a unit was popular with the Army Special Forces. And so carrying the coin at all times and presenting it when challenged was proved affiliation with that unit. It resulted in some consequences, though. For those who could not produce their coin, the most popular one, which still I believe is done today, is the coinless soldier had to buy a round of drinks or maybe some dinner. Now, these coins are used around the world for first responders. Alcoholics Anonymous has a version. Any community or organization, the police, etc. And the front of the coin, I'm going to put up the camera, and they're hefty. They're hand-painted and crafted raised letters. Is the show art for the Quiet Warrior show, but the back is brilliantly illustrated. It's what's called the story narrative by Joseph Campbell on how we all find a moment in our life where we go on seeking our true meaning. We learn, then we come back and we teach people to change their lives, and that is your story. So I want to congratulate you and welcome you to the Quiet Warrior community. These are carried around the world by almost 300 people now, and I put you in the 1% of people I've met who brought your true story and are demonstrating how you're helping other people. So congratulations, welcome.
Thanks a lot, Tom. I hope that your audience gets some inspiration, that if they were thinking about doing their genealogy, they don't have to, the Indo-Fijians do not have to travel to Fiji to do that research. They can do it, right at home, So.
Absolutely. That's the cool part, because, by the way, that website we were looking at, everyone, I can actually sit all day, I can play and I can just go on, and I'm still doing it. The one difference is that once you find the person, the actual records, you need to go to the library, because obviously for privacy reasons. And so Ashwini will teach you that process. And once you've done what I've done, I encourage you to look to the next step, the deeper step that he does. So Ashwini, we're going to just give you a round of fireworks here on the screen for congratulating you for everything you're doing. And also a shout out to Shobha, your wife, who's your sort of your right, working side by side with you. So on that note, final word to you. Where can people get a hold of you?
Well, they can call me at 1-604-562-5650, or they can email me at iffvs1@gmail.com. Those are IFFVS is the initials for the organization, International Foundation for Vedic Science.
Fantastic. And we will put all this in the show notes. We'll be producing and releasing this as a podcast, available where you hear podcasts. By the way, the Quiet Warrior Show is available on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and the whole list of all the top ones. And the Tom Dutta YouTube channel, subscribe to it so you get the notification. We'll be releasing the video premiere of this in the near future, which will allow you to see all of this. This will become your little playbook. And we want you to share this widely with people in the community, anybody at all, so that we can use it as an educational tool. Doesn't matter what generation. My daughter, Ashwini, age 27, will be one of the first people that I get to watch this so she can do her own research. So thank you, my friend, for being here on the Quiet Warrior Show.
It was my pleasure.
Mine too. Everybody, find that true purpose like you hear from Ashwini, and find your passion and live that life that you deserve and desire. And we'll see you all again in the next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to The Quiet Warrior Show. Create is a motive-based leadership development firm. www.kreat.ca.
Okay, stand by. We're going to take us offline.